From the Russ Center for Media in downtown Cape Girardeau, welcome to Focus on Southeast, a program on issues and events impacting the campus of Southeast Missouri State University. I'm Dan Woods with KRCU Public Radio. Esports is a rapidly growing industry that offers a form of sport competition through video games. Just like traditional sports, Southeast students wanted to play games in a space to gather and play and compete and relax, so the university built that space. Let's learn more about it now with Ricky Reed. He's esports coordinator, and Logan Dunlap. He's the vice president of the esports club. Welcome to you both.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, Ricky, let's start with you. Tell us about what is esports?
Yeah, esports, kind of you summed it up pretty nicely. Essentially, the best way to think about it for those who aren't familiar with it would be just think of it in a traditional sports sense. So rather you have basketball, hockey, football, well, instead you have different video game titles that you would compete in for tournaments. You can go pro, there's salaries, there's paid positions, there's organizations. Really, you can kind of just transfer it from traditional sports to video games in a way. It's kind of weird to say nowadays, but it's a thing.
So how long have we had it here at SEMO?
SEMO has been since 2019. It started up kind of during the peak of the pandemic and everything like that. Luckily, we were able to still get going, but it actually started in 2019, and it's been going strong ever since. Pretty
new, and it's all over at other universities too. This is sort of a big thing now.
Yeah, it's kind of becoming the official norm at college campuses. It's really offered everywhere, especially here in the Midwest area. It's really big. There's scholarships now. There's actual stadiums that are being built in the process right now. But it's really cool because not only are they just competing online for a recreational purpose, now it's actually transferred into the collegiate level. So just like how, say, Southeast Missouri might play Southern Illinois in football, we play them in video games as well.
Wow, it's just really cool to think about. So, yeah. Logan, you're the vice president of the esports club. What's this like? What's this club like, and what's this experience like here at SEMO?
It's a really unique experience. For an example, like getting to travel with the team, building a team chemistry just within the sport itself, and you can do that on a lot of levels. But playing level, from the officer standpoint, it's just really neat because you get to build those relationships that you might not have.
And I read this is the largest club on campus, or one of the largest, right?
Yep, correct. Yeah, if you're not including Greek life, then yes, we would be the largest.
Wow. So when you talk about competing with games, what are some of the game titles? What are the big ones that are really competitive and get really intense?
Yeah, well, we have 6 different game titles right now that we're competing in, and sometimes those can change depending on the student population and what they feel like competing in. So there's multiple different leagues you can kind of go into, but they have different game titles. In terms of some of our biggest ones here on campus that are most popular, Valorant, which Logan, who's actually the team captain for the varsity squad, okay, as well as Super Smash Bros. is another big one here on campus. And we also have Rocket League, and Apex Legends is also another big one. But Valorant, Logan can probably speak more to it, they actually won their league last spring. So they actually were league champions.
Well, tell us about that.
So basically, it's a 7-week season and then a 3-week playoff. We play normally takes about 2 or 3 hours, one night a week. But we spend a lot of time outside of that, putting in the hours, practicing, getting ready. All in all, you could almost consider it a part-time job. I'd probably people put in more time than that even, but it's a lot of fun because you actually get to, I would say, understand your teammates and knowing what they're going to do before they even know, in a sense. Okay. So you learn to play off them, and it's a really neat experience because bringing a title back to Southeast, we've actually won 3 titles in Valorant at Southeast since 2019, so it's one of our stronger games at the moment.
Okay, my son plays some of these games, so I know a little bit, but Valorant I'm not familiar with. What's the idea behind the game? What kind of game is it?
Have you ever heard of Counter-Strike, like CSGO?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a 1st to 13, you play 12 rounds of attack, 12 rounds of defense. Whoever gets to 13 rounds wins. It's a 5v5. Once you're dead, you're dead. Unless there's agents that can bring you back, but and it's a currency based, so you get so much money per round to spend. So some rounds you may decide not to buy anything as a strategy to save for the next. So it's a lot of strategy based, really.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We've got some video that we're going to show just of the esports arena and some of the stuff that's happening while we continue to chat here. So talk about the fundamentals of this, Ricky, because there's a lot of things that go into this. We think some folks listening may just think, oh, they're just playing video games, but there's a lot more to it than that.
Yes, definitely. So like Logan even spoke to a little bit, one, we have tryouts that we have for our different game titles, right? We try to gauge interest on what game titles that students want to compete in. So we actually have tryouts. So we have a process of, who makes the team. We'll have varsity rosters, JV rosters, and if there's enough, we even like to have academy teams for people who want to learn and practice the game more. They have practices every week. We find scrim or practice partners with other universities that are across the U.S. to kind of practice and play against for our leagues. So not only is there regimented practice, but then there's also just the whole competing aspect of other colleges. You can also win prize money. We travel, like for example, last spring, the Valorant team, we went to Iowa State and we did a tournament there. There's a lot more, and then the club sense, I mean, there's so much professional experience to gain too. Esports isn't just also about playing video games. For example, I'm obviously here coordinating here on campus for a college, right? But there's production, there's content creation, there's social media, there's marketing. I mean, there's just leadership and management. I mean, so in the club, it's not even just even if you don't want to play, we have things to do in the SEMO eSports program where you can learn leadership, management experience, whether or even coaching teams or simply just working on our content team and helping with our streams.
Watching this video, it was going while we were talking here. It looks like a lot of fun, and it looks like there's a lot of engagement, a lot of involvement. Is that fair to say, Logan?
Yes, I definitely think so. I mean, I think being able to bring I think a lot of people say, oh, well, maybe I don't want to play. Well, they find a spot somewhere else in the club and organization that they can fit in. And I think it's a very involved organization in that aspect. Yeah.
Give us a sense of job opportunities, because I think this can be very lucrative, can it?
Yes, definitely. Just like how, say, so esports, the way the leagues work are a little bit different, but say like you took someone like the LA Lakers, right? Well, there's esports organizations. So for example, like there's one called like Team Liquid, one called 100 Thieves, one called TSM, Cloud9, and they all have different teams for different game titles. Well, inside all those game titles, you got to think about it. One, they have people running their social media. You have people who are creating content for them. You also have people who are team managers for each game. You have coaches for each game. You actually have just members within the organization. So there's technically even like HR positions. There's, I mean, really, if you think about it, it kind of becomes to the whole aspect of it's kind of like it's kind of like it's a blooming industry, like you said earlier, where it's just creating more and more positions and more jobs. So even if you're not a professional level of player, there's a way to find your foot in the door if you still want to work into like the esports scene professionally.
I mean, just to hear you talk about it, it sounds just like traditional sports.
Exactly.
It's everything just sort of all lines up together.
Yeah, and that's kind of where like the gap is kind of finally kind of being bridged, as people are realizing, oh, there is money involved in this, there is competition. I mean, there's multi-million-dollar tournaments and pro players. It's very rare to have them have under a six-figure salary plus the sponsorships. I mean, it's not even just like your typical sponsorships of, like the whole gaming stereotype of like, oh, energy drinks and fast food or something, right?
Right.
Like there's like Mercedes-Benz or there's BMW, Puma, like there's so many sponsorships that would translate to what you'd see in traditional sports as well. So it's kind of really neat to see the transition kind of happening.
So Logan, for you and for other students that are involved in this, does this sort of help you guide your career choice? Or are you doing it just for fun, or do you have a longer term, or other students have a longer term career path in mind because of this?
I think, so when I came to Southeast, I was originally an ad major, still an ad major, but opening the door to the esports industry, I think, is definitely something that has opened my eyes. Like he said, it's not even just you don't even have to be a player, like you can be a team manager, or, I mean, and some people like the content side more, so like, running a stream, making sure everything being on the production side of things. I think that's really unique also that we don't see, and like when you think of it, you don't see either because you're looking at it and like, oh, it's 10 people playing a game, but how many people are behind them also, I think, is a big factor.
Yeah, because some of us, like me, my thumbs aren't very, my coordination is not great. So when I did try to play with my son, I got yelled at a lot because we would get killed, or if it was a shooting game. We didn't last very long because I'm not very good. But there's a lot of other things that are going on behind the scenes, as you said. Talk about recruitment, because this has to be somewhat of a recruitment tool, and students that are looking at universities may look to see if there's an esports
Definitely.
program.
It's kind of becoming more important at colleges, like more and more as time goes on. really, as the generation right now that's in high school, junior high, middle school, they're all growing up with video games even more so than, say, my generation did. It's becoming more and more relevant. Even at the junior high, the middle school, the high school level, they're all building esports programs and they're having esports teams. For example, we literally just helped with Cape Central Junior High and their Super Smash Bros. State Championships, and they actually won. So actually a Cape Central player just won state championship for junior high for Super Smash Bros. So it's going to be more and more popular and more prevalent, and I literally have students every semester. I visit with their parents and them come out when they come to SEMO and they see it as an option. I do tours all the time in terms of telling them what SEMO esports is about and showing them on the campus, showing them the facility and the arena. And it's a huge factor, I would say, in a lot of students' decision on where to go, and esports is becoming a big part of that.
So the esports arena is a very impressive facility there. So is the funding, is that through student government? How do you, and there's a lot of money that goes into gaming computers. I do know that they're expensive. So how does that side of it work? Yeah,
so that side is kind of like a 50-50 in a way. So student government and the rec center both kind of match in terms of for equipment, gear, supplies, our league fees, that kind of thing, travel. So we kind of split it down the middle. And even if you go into the arena, you'll see a nice little plaque there that's from student government and what they pledged, in the initial startup. So we kind of like to share the load in a way, because it is for the students, but also the rec wants to provide this opportunity for students as well. So it's kind of like a teamwork in a way.
So Logan, what other things does the club do besides, I guess, maybe practice a lot? What else do you do?
So we try to put on casual events, like for Halloween. We did a Halloween stream and we had people come on and try to act, we're scared of people that were jump scared. And then we do many events outside. Like recently we held SEMO CI with high school students where they came and competed. Just last week we actually held a in-house Valorant tournament, but it was a for fun tournament. It wasn't practice for anybody, and we had, I think, 40-something people come out and just play Valorant for 4 or 5 hours, and a tournament style base. But there's also, we try to provide the casual players a way in too. We offer 24/7 access to the arena, so they can come in at any time. They can not rent, but they use our equipment if they need. And we just try to offer different avenues for them to get involved, in a sense.
So this is happening a lot in high schools. So when those high schoolers graduate, they're going to look to universities and they're going to probably wonder,
correct,
is esports there?
Yeah, can I continue playing, really is the question. I mean, a lot of these high schools are playing now for their high school teams, and so they're like, wow, this is really fun, because also for someone maybe that doesn't want to play basketball or football or wrestling for their school, well, hey, I like to play video games a lot. Oh, we have an esports team. Oh, cool, I can represent Cape Central, wear a Cape Central jersey, and play against other high schools in the Missouri area. Well, that's pretty fun too. So why not continue that into the collegiate level to where you're playing actually colleges from across the U.S.?
This may be a silly question, but
yeah.
So whenever there's signings, like if somebody joins a sports team, they have a signing at a table and they sign to join this particular team. Does this same thing happen here?
So
joining a league or a...
Yes, a lot of colleges are going that way. So there's kind of like a split, right? Where we have some universities that are have it as under athletics. You have some universities that have it under the recreation services. Okay. Some universities have it as kind of just like a club level. So it kind of depends on which university you're at. But the trajectory, the way it is going, there are signings. Whether if somebody gets a scholarship for football or basketball, right?
Right.
Say they get a full ride. There are signings for, say, scholarships. A lot of universities now are offering scholarships. Whether what that amount is different at every university. But when you're getting a scholarship, you guarantee that there are those signings, and they're taking those pictures and they're making those posts and putting it on social media, the websites, what have you.
It's just fascinating. I read a little bit about this, but I wanted to talk to you all more to learn more about it, because it's something that I know is a fairly new thing, at least here. But Logan, for students who are out there in high school looking to college, this would be something that would be appealing to them, don't you think?
It definitely is. SEMO eSports actually was not around when I was looking for colleges, but during my first couple of years here is when it kind of first started to get off the ground. And at first it was completely student-led. We had a student GA grad assistant who helped get the program going. So like that the university has taken notice that we are here, that this is a growing industry because we have Ricky here now. He's a big asset to us, and I think overall just the program in general at Southeast is growing.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. Logan, Ricky, thank you both for visiting with us.
Of course. Thanks for having us.
Yep. Okay, when we come back, we'll talk with Dr. Brad Deken from Southeast Department of Engineering and Technology. You're watching Focus on Southeast. We'll be right back.
What is Southeast Missouri? Let's try this again. You are Southeast Missouri. You make Southeast Missouri what it is. And Southeast Missouri is who we are. It's in our name. It's in our past. And with you, it's our future. Welcome home.
Every day,
millions of people are connecting. Father,
cosplayer,
mentor,
Actor.
It's time we take a step forward, come together,
and discover
how accepting our differences
can make us stronger.
On Southeast, SEMO's Department of Engineering and Technology offers students the opportunity to major in anything from engineering to computer technology or technology management to professional pilot. Dr. Brad Deken is the chair of the department. He's here now to talk about accreditation, some grant funding, and much more. Hey, Brad.
Hi. Nice to be here.
Good to see you. Got a lot of good stuff going on down in your department. Talk a little bit about some of the accreditations, and before you do that, tell us what accreditation is and why it's so important.
Yeah, it's been a busy time for us in terms of accreditation. What accreditation is, it's kind of the stamp of approval for academic programs.
Okay.
It's somebody from the outside coming in and looking at our programming and looking at all the different measures for that program and decide if this is a good program to train students, for their future careers. And one of our very big accreditations that just came up, we had a new accreditation in industrial and systems engineering. It's one of our new programs, just about 5 years old. Wow. And they required us to wait to have a graduate, somebody that has graduated from the program, and once we did that, we did apply for that accreditation. They came and visited our department and the campus, and we received that stamp of approval. So now those students can go on and become licensed professional engineers here in Missouri or anywhere else.
Well, that's great. And the accreditations are usually good for, 3 to 5 years, depending on the program, I guess.
Yeah, we have to re-accredit them. Most of ours are on a 5 or 6 year cycle. Mm-hmm. So in addition to that new accreditation in industrial and systems engineering, we just had our re-accreditation for our Association of Technology Management and Applied Engineering, which accredits our technology management program. Mm-hmm. And we had a successful visit there and got that stamp. And then we have some really big ones coming up as well. So for instance, our engineering physics and engineering technology programs, we're working on those reports now.
Okay.
And are expecting visits pretty soon.
Let's talk about an event that happened not too long ago, and it kind of caught my eye, was the MoDOT bridge building. I know we don't necessarily host it, but I know we're involved with that. Talk about that and what students did when they were here.
Yeah, so that's something that MoDOT puts on that we kind of help them as they're here, and it's a high school competition where students will build bridges out of wood, and the idea is to get the most strength out of the bridge with the least amount of weight of the bridge structure itself. And so teams from all over Southeast Missouri brought their projects, and then they bring them into the academic hall and break them. So see what their breaking point is.
Yeah.
And it's a fun activity. It brings a lot of people together. And we actually had our table out there with our construction management program, showing them about our program as well.
Oh, absolutely. That makes, and I guess the breaking part's probably a little more fun than the construction part, isn't it?
Well, for them, I'm sure it is. And that excitement as you keep adding more and more weight, and it keeps holding until it doesn't.
That's pretty good. Let's talk a little about grant funding. Did you get some grant funding for the aviation for the drones program, maybe, that I read?
We did. We were lucky enough to get some Department of Education grant funding, and it will be a pretty sizable chunk, $1.7 million.
That's a nice grant.
To add quite a bit of new equipment for both our professional pilot program and our unmanned aircraft systems programs. So I know some big ticket items that we are looking at for that. We already have aircraft. We work with U.S. Aviation for a lot of that. But what we really want to bring to the students is the opportunity to kind of work with commercial aircraft. And it's kind of difficult to bring in a Boeing 737 or something like that. Right. So what we try to do instead is get high-end simulators that make it feel like you are flying one of these without actually flying, right?
And I'm guessing those are pretty expensive.
They are pretty expensive, yeah. They can be quite costly.
How is the aviation program doing? We talked to Miranda Sullivan on the radio not too long ago, but it sounds like things are going really well with the program. They
are going really well. I mean, it's grown. It's kind of surpassed our expectations. We currently have about 60 students in the program. It's our second year into it, or I guess our third semester into it. And we have students progressing through the program. The way we kind of design the curriculum is they go through a lot of the flight side of the program before they get into the more lecture college classroom style classes. And we actually have a couple of students kind of finishing up that flight side, so that's kind of exciting.
That's really cool. Okay, so I saw something that I have to ask you about because I don't know about this. Virtual and augmented reality in construction. What is that all about?
Yeah, and that's one of those things that we have a pretty tight relationship with the industries around us, and we bring industry to us to kind of make sure that we're always teaching the tools, the techniques, the equipment that they're using in the field. And one of our industrial partners at one of our recent advisory committee meetings, they were talking about how often they are starting to use virtual reality in construction. And so Jaron McMurray, one of our faculty members in that area, he's been working pretty hard on figuring out how to bring that into the curriculum. So in construction, they use augmented reality. You can actually draw out a building, draw out the floor plan, and actually see that floor plan in 3D with either with an iPad kind of holding it up, or if you have the virtual reality goggles, you can walk through a building before it's ever built. And really, even more importantly, for the construction manager, is when you're actually on the job site, you can compare in real time the drawing of that building with where it, with the actual build. So we had one of our companies talking to us and saying, you can walk through a facility and you can see a pipe and see that it's a foot to the right just by comparing them, and hopefully catch a lot of mistakes before they become costly mistakes. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that seeing it ahead of time, because it's always more expensive to go back and have to undo and change the wiring should have been this way. Now you're running alongside something you shouldn't be, and that can really get to be costly.
Yeah, you definitely want to find that mistake before you put in all the wall,
yeah, it makes
the drywall and all of that.
Makes a lot of sense. Let's talk a little about there's these big solar panels now down in the parking lot at the Show Me Center. I know students were involved in learning about all of that. Tell us about the partnership there.
Yep, and that's actually with our construction management program as well. They reached out early on, and we always try to give our students a chance to see what these things look like in the real world, and what an opportunity we had, because we had this large-scale construction project, literally hundreds of feet from our building. So they were gracious enough to bring in engineers and designers, and they would do presentations to the class and have discussions with them on the process. But even as that build was going on, they were bringing students out at different aspects of it, before they broke ground to, finished product, and showing students how they were erected, but also all the management aspects and the planning that goes into that project, something so large scale.
That's sort of that real world experience that Southeast does a lot of.
Yes, yeah, it is, and we do that. We've talked about construction management. We do that across all of our programs. I mean, I have an engineering technology class, and this last semester we went and visited 4 different manufacturers in the region just to see what a manufacturing process looks like and what really a career in these areas look like. A lot of us may think, oh, I want to be an engineer or fill in the blank, but we don't really have any idea what that career actually looks like. And so to actually go to these places and talk to the people doing it is really beneficial for them.
Yeah, we got a couple of minutes before we go. I'll have to ask about the drone program because I think it's just the coolest thing ever. So how are things going with that program, and what's new in the drones?
One exciting thing, we did recently get it offered as a minor, so it's open up to many other students because it's a big field, even if you don't want that to be your entire major. So it's going to open it up to a lot more people. With that grant funding, we have some really interesting drones coming in, including like gasoline-powered ones and tethered ones and everything else. So, it's a new program, but we've had some recent graduates, and they've had incredible success in getting jobs in that field. So it's been amazing.
And the growth's been really, really good as far as folks coming through it, right?
Well, it's still one of our smaller programs, but opening up that minor avenue, it's really starting to fill up the classes.
Yeah, we got a little bit of time left. Anything else happening over in your area that folks might think, well, that sounds really interesting?
Yeah, actually, we just had our first Lego League.
Cool.
That's another competition that we help host. So that's actually for 4th to 8th graders. They build robots to meet missions. And that was a fun event. And actually in February 4th in the Student Rec Center, we're hosting the high school version of that, the First Technology Challenge, where they'll be building robots out of these kind of metal erector set type kits, but they have pretty complex controls on them and sensors and drives and that kind of thing, and competing head to head. Yeah.
It's always good too to get students on the campus.
It is, and just to show them that we're here. I mean, in addition to that aviation grant, we get about $250,000 of grant funding each year, and so we're always bringing in a lot of new equipment, and it's kind of the best kept secret is in our basement.
Fantastic. Brad, thanks so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Focus on Southeast is a collaboration of KRCU Public Radio and the Department of Mass Media here at Southeast Missouri State University. Just a reminder that portions of these conversations will be broadcast on KRCU Public Radio and will also be available online at krcu.org. From the Russ Center for Media, I'm Dan Woods. Thanks for watching. Be sure to tune in next time when we focus on Southeast.